Welcome back, and joining us for a closer look at the day's market-moving news is Wayne McCurrie from FNB Wealth and Investments. Thank you so much for your time, Wayne. The markets there, particularly the JSE trading in the red, but also a lot of red that we saw in the US boards and even in the European markets. And of course, I would imagine that the markets are still digesting that US inflation print that came out hotter than expected for March. Is it a surprise or expected for the markets to kick the can further down the line in terms of interest rate cuts from the Fed?
Look, interest rate cuts are coming, but clearly the number yesterday didn't help. I mean, we must all put it into perspective. It was 0.1% higher than market expectations. So it's not as though inflation is out of control. It just slightly disappointed. And surprisingly enough, we've come through that all right. The overseas markets have been more negatively affected than what we have been. I mean, yesterday, our market fell initially and it closed flat. Today, we are down very slightly. But on the last 7 days, we're actually up, 6 odd percent in the resource shares, which is quite something. So despite the inflation number, our market's actually doing all right because the mining shares are running. And this time around, it's the non-gold mining shares, the platinum shares that are actually running. Of course, the rand has unfortunately been negatively affected, but then even then, not dramatically so. I mean, it didn't go back to 1920, but it did go from 1850 through to call it the 1880 level now because of that US inflation number. And that's more dollar strength per se than rand weakness. So it's only really the rand that's been affected negatively by the inflation number. But that was by far the biggest news event this week.
Well, I mean, Wayne, quite interesting that you mentioned those miners running, particularly the PGMs, because we did see Northam and Implats leading the gains that in that PGM sector. We also did see Amplats into the green, but Sibanye is seeming to be a lag out there, seeming to buck that trend. Last time I checked, that share price was down about 3%. More than 3%. And I'm wondering, of course, they did make another announcement of retrenchment talks. Is that it? Or could there be more to Sibanye's downward momentum today?
Well, look, I mean, you can't always equate one day's movement to a trend.
Yeah.
But it is unusual for Sibanye to be down 3% when the other platinum shares are actually quite strong. And there must be something to do with the Section 187 announcement that's come through again, because they've got that in their platinum section, and it's unusual in the gold section to have this because they should be printing money in the gold section, because we have never had such a good gold price ever. I mean, to think that the gold price is, it's almost what it is now, 1.4 million rand a kilogram. So they should be printing money in the gold side of Sibanye, but clearly this 187 announcement is telling us that, maybe they're not actually printing money there.
Yeah. And actually, just as we're talking about, the miners, we did have mining production coming out today. We did have output in February increasing 9.9% year on year. Just, on that, Wayne, because one would think that in such an environment with the low PGM prices, that we would see a negative effect there on production. What do you make of this, and could it maybe present, a point of a turnaround in terms of production there?
Well, look, it's always difficult to look at these mining numbers on a monthly basis because the monthly number can be very volatile.
Yeah.
I mean, the number that came out before this disappointed on the downside. But we should, over the next 2 to 3 years, see a strong recovery in mining output, except that we assume that Eskom will work okay, and we assume that Transnet will work okay, et cetera, it's big assumptions.
Yeah.
But we should be going into a commodity upcycle, which means maybe the volumes won't increase so dramatically, but the rand value will increase quite dramatically. If we do get, or when we do get the interest rate cuts, we should see quite a nice resurgence in commodity prices.
All right. Well, let's talk about exciting news on the JSE today. The JSE did get a new listing from Buy Cars, even though it is a result of corporate action, one of the first listings for 2024. And of course, we did see that share trading above 20 Rand, above the initial IPO price of 18 Rand at 75. Is this a good signal of investor appetite, or just it's the first day, so we can't really say too much about it?
Well, look, it is a good sign that it went up on the first day. It didn't go down.
Yeah.
But you are quite correct. Don't look at 20 Rand 40 or 20 Rand 50 being the price for Buy Cars. Give it a little bit more time to actually settle. There were 4 million shares traded today, which is, it's quite big volumes. The market is not very well bid, so there doesn't seem to be too many buyers out there, and there's a lot more sellers at a slightly higher price than this. So we'll have to see, but I mean, this is all still so new. We'll see what the price does tomorrow and over the weeks to come.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Wayne, I'm not sure how much time we have. Just waiting to see how much time we have. All right, okay. So we can go to your stock pick at this point. What will it be?
Well, I'm going for Anglo American Platinum. I mean, the platinum price itself is now approaching 1,000 Rand, $1,000 an ounce. And it got there beginning of January, then fell back. So we'll see whether that's maintained or not. Anglo American Platinum has also bounced down to 650 2 or 3 times, over the last couple of months, trading now at about 820. I think we're in for a good commodity run. So this is not a call for the next week or the next month. It's definitely a call over the next 2 to 3 years. I think we can make a very, very rewarding return from the platinum shares, and I'm going for Anglo American Platinum rather than the more marginal ones like Northern and Impala and Sibanye, etc. If I'm wrong, Anglo American does give you a little bit more protection on the downside because it's one of the lower cost producers.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights on what has moved investors' money today. Wayne, that was Wayne McCurrie from FNB Wealth and Investments.